Okay, so welcome to the Online with the CMC, Stump the CMC. So today we're doing something slightly different. We are asking you to ask us questions and try to stump us. So this is the time and the place for you to bring your cataloging questions to us. Do you have questions about a specific item you're cataloging or some other question? So are you cataloging an item or collection and have questions about how to catalog it? Are you uncertain where to begin? Do you have general cataloging questions we can answer? We did receive a few ahead of time, so we're going to share those now. But if you have questions, please pop them in the chat and we will answer those live. So is the question not showing first? Oh, fun times. That's okay. Go ahead, Eric.
All right, thank you, Pam. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric McKinney, and this is one of the questions that came in. How do you stay updated with emerging trends and changes in cataloging standards and practices? And when we all put our heads together, we came up with quite the list here. Of course, we have all sorts of listservs, AutoCAD, and of course, acronyms everywhere. The library world loves acronyms. The MOGL, OCLC, and various ones such as OCLC abstracts. And this is in the way, get out of the way. OCLC CAP, OLAC-L, MARC-L, RDA-L, the PCC list, taking continuing education courses is important. Attending OCLC's Ask QC virtual office hours and updates from the cataloging lab. And if anybody has any others, yeah, definitely throw those out there.
Please share. Please share with us. Okay.
All right, and our next question is, how do you handle cataloging materials in multiple languages or with non-Latin scripts? And we have a variety of tools that we use to catalog those items, Google Translate being a good one, Lexilogos as the language keyboards of different languages that you can use, Library of Congress romanization tables, Thai to English if working with Thai materials, Korean Institute of Language, mylanguages.org, guidelines for contributing non-Latin script to OCLC records, the RDA toolkit. If you're on Facebook Troublesome Catalogers and Magical Metadata Fairies, which is an awesome name, and Stars 21. And I think I might even add, ChatGPT to the list, as I've been using it recently to kind of help with some of the world language materials, especially when I take a picture in Google Translate on my phone and then go over to my PC to look at it. Sometimes it comes in all caps, which I don't want. So I can slap it into ChatGPT, tell it to, make it only the first word with a all cap and then maintain the diacritics of the language, and it'll spit it back out at me so I can just copy and paste it over. So yeah, I think ChatGPT would go on there too. So again, if you have any others that you feel should be here or that you know of, feel free to put them in the chat.
Okay, and we're going to go to the next slide. Mary, this one's you.
Yep. Hello, folks. So our question here that we have next is, when looking for romanization for world languages, what would be a good resource? And what we have linked here is the Library of Congress.
Oops, hang on. Forgot to click again. Oops, you're muted.
So with this, we have over 50 languages that there have been different romanization tables created for. This is everything from Arabic to Bengali to Japanese. So this is a really great resource if you need some help with romanization.
Okay, thanks, Mary. All right, moving to the next one. So what subject headings would you assign for a religious fiction book about Ruth? So first of all, you're going to do a 600 Ruth biblical figure in subfield C and then subfield V fiction. You might also want to add a 600 for Naomi, biblical figure fiction, and Boaz, biblical figure fiction. You might also want to do women in the Bible fiction as a 650 and Christian fiction as a genre heading. So if anybody has anything they want to add to that, you can. And Barb, this one's you, and sorry if the answer already popped up.
All right. How do you determine if you should use a 1 or a 0 in the first indicator for field 490? Does series traced, meaning using 1, mean that the series has an authority record or will have one in the future? And then you use 0 for series not traced. A 1 means the series is traced, and if the series is traced, then there's an authority record for the series title. However, not every series is traced.
And I just want to add a little bit there, especially maybe for some of you who might be newer catalogers. So on June 1st, 2006, the Library of Congress implemented the decision not to create or update series authority records, or SARs, and not to provide controlled series access points in its bibliographic records for resources in series. Because up to that point, catalogers were relying on the Library of Congress to do that work. However, people who are NACO trained can create authorized series titles. So just keep that in mind. Okay, Blake, this one is you.
What are the necessary 3XX fields to include when cataloging a book? This is an area where RDA has been evolving. So it used to be you just did a 300 when you were cataloging, and then RDA came along and added the 33X triples, the 336, 337, 338, which OCLC very helpfully ran scripts that stuck them into all the existing bib records and their convenient macros that inserted those 3 triples if you use macros in connection at all, so that you could add them fairly quickly. But as we've been moving to the new form of RDA, they've been increasing the number of 3XX fields. And so there are additional ones that are starting to pop up, including the 334 and 338. And then depending on what's in your book, if you have illustrations, there may be 1 or more 340 fields for the illustrations. And you can add 353 fields for any bibliography or index present in the book. And then you can also add a 380 to identify the form or genre of a work. While these are not all of the possible 3XX fields, these are the most common ones that should be a standard part of your monographic cataloging if you use things like macros. I'm drawing a blank on what the controlled data templates. You can have them pre-inserted in your records and then delete them if you don't need them. But they should be part of what you evaluate for every book. Just as you would always put a 300 field in, you should be aware of these and thinking about them as you catalog books.
Thanks, Blake. Okay, that was the last of our questions that were sent in to us ahead of the webinar. So these are the folks that are on the call. So we've got Barb, myself, Mary, Eric, Kat, Blake, Katie, and Andrea. And I don't know why it always likes to end the show for you, but it likes to do that. So let me go back here, hopefully. You can see our faces. So you are allowed to unmute yourself and ask your question verbally. I don't know why it likes to do that. Go back. So we can answer any of your cataloging questions. So feel free to either type them in the chat or ask them verbally. While you're thinking of questions, I just want to remind you that next month, Eric will be presenting on constructing our past cataloging blueprints. So even if you don't catalog blueprints currently or think you will in the future, you might want to just register and attend to see the fun of creating bib records for blueprints.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. So I am doing a presentation on Yoto players and Tony boxes, which are like kids audio speakers, and they have little cards and little figurines that you put like on the box to play the material. And I was going through the 33X fields, and we cataloged all of them we included a 336 field for three-dimensional form. And then as I was going through the presentation, I was like questioning whether that was correct, because like for like CDs, you don't include a three-dimensional form, even though it is technically a three-dimensional form. So then I was like, are we not supposed to include that, do you think? Would you have included that? But then I was thinking about it again, and I was like, well, no, because some of them are little figurines or little cards, and I feel like that's sort of part of the experience of using them, is like that kids can like sort of play with like it's sort of
Right.
partly a toy also.
Right.
So I guess I was wondering about your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think that's fine that you did a 336 for the 3D form. Are CDs 3D? Aren't they 2D? I'm not good with 2 and 3D. I often ask someone who lives in my house about stuff like that. But I'll let anybody else kind of jump in on that one too.
So I was gonna say, Anna, what you could do that might be helpful is if that part of, say, the object or the toy is something considered separate, like it's not, you could put in a subfield 3 at the beginning of that three-dimensional 3XX to specify what exactly is the three-dimensional object for it. It's a little convoluted, but it is a way to kind of point out like, this is why I'm using this tag.
Yeah, make it very specific.
Like for the figurine specifically,
Yeah.
like yes,
Yes.
the figurine is like a little guy.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to add that while there are a lot more 3XX fields you have to worry about for monographs, once you move away from monographs and get into audio, video, realia, then there are so many. So it really becomes a much more specialized form of cataloging if you don't regularly catalog those other formats. You really want to look for examples because there's a wealth of 3XX fields out there for all of the different aspects of visual, audio, realia materials, and it can be quite involved to get them all put into the record.
Yeah. Well, that was sort of, as I was thinking about it, it was just like I had been thinking about them more as like realia, I guess, more so than like a CD. And so that's why I
Yes.
had those. But then I was just like, I was having sort of like an existential crisis. Like, well, is it though? Like, because the point is you use it, as with a CD, like you put in the CD player, and like the point is that there's music or sound or whatever on it. So, and I'm not like accounting for like the physical reality of the CD.
Right.
So then I was like really going down a rabbit hole, but I think I'll just keep them because I think that's an important part of it.
I think so too. And I think it's going to be helpful. And especially if you go back and maybe add that subfield 3.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Again, you can stick them in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask them. And just ask after you've asked your question and had it answered, please mute yourself again, especially if you're in a noisy environment.
Back to the 490 field.
Mhm.
How do you determine that? I don't know how to describe this, that if it's traced or not. Because what if
It's in one of the fixed fields of the authority record.
Yeah, so that would be, I want to say it's in the, it's in the 645 of a
Yep.
series record. So you'll have a T at the start of that field, and then you'll have your subfield 5 that says like this is who created the record.
Yeah, and it might be the series fixed field. It's one of the fixed fields that also it's coded, but yeah.
Okay. Because I just seem to, I can't exactly remember, but at one point I was getting like an error message for, oh gosh, what was it? Like I put a 0 in there and then it's yelling at me saying I need an 830.
Mark report was yelling at you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Well, because Mark report doesn't like a 490 with 0 as the indicator.
Okay.
And Mark report's not always right, but a lot of times it is. And so then, yeah, you need to go back and check to see if the series trace. If it is it an 800 or is it an 830? And then go back in and add that 8XX field, whichever one is appropriate. If there is one, if not, you can leave it as a 490. But mostly you're probably going to be doing 490 with 1 as the indicator.
Okay.
Any other questions? Everybody's really shy today. Oops, thanks, Mary. Mary popped in the box an example of the 645 field with T and then subfield 5 DPCC and then subfield 5 with our holdings code, I believe. Oh, she says there's not a fixed field indicator for a series being traced. I thought there was. I'll look that up later. Okay, as I said, you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can put your question in the chat box. Okay, so Gail says, how would you search for a series authority record in connection? I
would do a title search. That's usually your best way to find it. So for instance, I just searched for one that I've created. It's for a self-published book called Loki of Midgard. And I just searched for that in the title search. And it came up with the record for it.
Gail, were you wanting to know that or actually how to do the search itself?
Well, I was just curious in connection how you do the search.
Okay. Hang on, let me see if I can. Not what I wanted.
I have a series that I'm working on that I'm curious about.
Do you have the series
Yeah.
title right now? Okay. So you can go, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so you can go to authorities up here, the top, click on search, LC names and subjects. Oh, sorry, I had to log back in.
Oh, so that I could search in.
And then you'll get this, and you can change these. These are the ones that I leave. But yeah, if you'll share the title with me, I can go ahead and type that in.
Okay, let me see if I can put that in the chat. My little chat. I somehow lost my chat box. What happened to that? Let's see. There we go. Okay. Where'd the chat box go?
Should be at the bottom of your screen. There should be
I know
the
that.
chat.
I don't know. Anyway, the title, for some reason the chat is gone. I don't know why.
It might be, if you've got multiple screens open, it might be hidden
There we
behind
go.
something.
Okay, here's the title. Because
Yep, there we go. Clásicos Castellanos. Okay. All right. So looks like you've got two possibly. I'm not sure what the bamboo editorial is, but let's open this one. It's so slow. Okay, so there's the authority record for that. And as Mary said, here's your 645 with T in the subfield A. So this is a traced series. And then this is what you should use in your 830 field.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
So the one thing I noticed when you were back in your search field is there were different ones depending on location. So having worked with Spanish publishers before, I would also make sure that they all point back to this one, because if they don't, you might want to check those other ones to see where your place of publication is, because it might
okay.
actually be based on one of those other records instead.
Yeah.
And you can just
this
go up here and go to the next record. And you can also go back. So you can look at the other one.
Yeah,
and
I
this
mean,
is
it's
for monographic series. And
yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
does point back to the Clásicos Castellanos.
Okay. Yeah, that one looked right because the publisher and location looked right.
This first one.
The first one we looked at, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I want to, so sometimes the bib records have the volume information also located in either the 440 or the 490.
It should be the 490. There isn't a 440 anymore.
Well, some of the old bib records
Older
still have
records, yeah.
them.
Yeah. No, I know.
But
if you were updating them, then change them to 490.
Okay. Okay. Well, because I noticed some of them don't have the volume numbers, so I thought it would be great to add the volume numbers because I want to make sure to have that information. So I could just go ahead and put that in like a subfield V, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And is this a numbered or unnumbered series?
It is numbered.
It looks like by looking at the authority record that series numbering, which is the C, what that's telling you is that the numbering varies.
Okay.
So But it
General.
is, they do have a 642 field in this record, so it looks like
Mhm.
depending on what your numbering is, you should be able to use it in a subfield V.
Yep.
Okay.
And even if you weren't, a lot of catalogers add that subfield V because it's just useful information for patrons and library staff. So
Yeah, it's a huge set, like 150 or something
well, it says
volume.
by 1980 there were 223 volumes.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that's a large series. So
yeah.
okay. Do you have any questions about this series title?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that's really helpful though.
Sure. Okay, hang on. Fighting with my mouse. Oh, right. Looks like we got a long one. And of course, chat box is down here. Yay. Let me make it bigger so I can see it. Okay, so Brian says, I was given 2 boxes of COVID materials to catalog. It included news articles, press releases from our university, mass COVID test kit. How much should I include in the bib? I mean, that's kind of up to you, but like, I would probably add like maybe either in a 500 or 520, the different things that you have in there. You might want to create maybe like some 340s as well. I don't know, just a 505. Yes, thank you. Sorry, not a 520, a 505 too. Well, maybe both. Have you done anything similar to that? I would maybe kind of try to stay consistent with how you catalog things in your system, if that makes sense. So if there's a COVID test kit, so is that going to get replenished if somebody checks that out? In case if somebody takes the COVID test kit and it's not there anymore, and also with the masks and stuff, is that the idea that you'll just kind of replenish things once it's returned? I'm assuming that you're checking it out, not just having it in the collection to not circulate. But I could be making a lot of assumptions. It's an archive, so it can't be checked out. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, especially if it's an archival record collection, I think I would just try to include as many details as possible. Did that answer your question? Okay, you're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? Again, you can unmute yourself if you're in a sort of quiet environment, or you can pop it in the chat. Nobody else has any questions?
I wanted to add for the for Brian's question,
Mhm.
like the Lincoln Library will send me archival collections that they want to catalog, and the 520 is where we put all of the what's inside the box, and then I do like to try to put, like corporate minutes, corporation reports, financial statements, ledgers. Yeah.
So just kind of listing everything that's included.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and they've got quite a few archival collections there. So if their database is searchable, Brian, you might want to do like kind of search around in their records and maybe kind of use those as an example too. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Again, you can pop them in the chat box or unmute yourself. Okay, Gail says, how common is it for archive boxes to be added to the catalog? I think that's really up to the library and if the library owns them. I know with Lincoln, they do not send the boxes to us to catalog. They send us information in a Word document, and that works fine. We don't want, especially archival things, to get damaged or lost. Not that that happens very often, but we would prefer those to stay in your library. Possibly a little safer than passing them back and forth through delivery. So yeah, Gail, if you've got some archival collections that need to be cataloged, we can do those for you for free. Okay. Anybody
Pam,
else have any questions? Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Can I chime in on the archives? In my
Yep.
previous position at an academic library, we did add all of that to the catalog so patrons could find it. It was made clear that it was not available to be checked out or for interlibrary loan, but at the very least, they could find it in the OPAC and know that they'd have to go up to our archival room to see the material. So,
yep. And then Gail, Barb shared some OCLC numbers for you, right? Or are those for Brian to look at? For Brian?
They're for Brian. Well,
Okay,
for
sorry.
anyone, but yeah.
Well,
yeah, those are some of the collections that I've done for Lincoln Library.
Lincoln Library. Yeah, we've been doing those for, I don't know, a couple years now.
And there's been an emphasis to get archival materials cataloged in general.
Yep.
The difficulty being that for a lot of institutions, you don't have staff with those skills because it is much more complex cataloging. But the general concept is that these are unique materials, so getting them cataloged really contributes something that no one else could contribute to the bibliographic dataverse. And so the more libraries that are able to get their archival materials cataloged greatly increases the ability to locate these unique items that otherwise they might as well not exist because no one has any idea that they're there.
That's right. And especially, Brian, with the one that you have, because you might have some unique things in your collection that other people don't. And even if it can't be checked out, you can still see what you have. Gail, did you have another question?
Yeah, I mean, we've just been talking about what to do about our archive materials because we don't have them cataloged electronically. I think they had something locally called file share or something, and so they're maybe on there, and maybe that would provide a good document to send to get them cataloged. But yeah, it's a big, huge project that is kind of floating out there for me to think about.
I think somebody from Knox College had contacted me a year or two ago about doing that, and I had told her that we could.
Okay.
Barb, do you have one of those Word documents that you could send to Gail so she can kind of see what Lincoln provides?
Yes, I do.
Okay, would that be okay, Gail? And then you can kind of
Yeah,
see. Okay.
that would be really helpful. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that we don't need to still sometimes do an email exchange about things, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because again, you don't have that item in your hand and
Right.
you
Yeah.
just have words on a document.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I know I had contacted you all about, we have a lot of books and some pamphlets that we've been
Okay.
working on that, you know, we've got them sorted now.
Okay.
So we probably will be able to start sending you some things fairly soon.
Okay.
But that's in addition to all of the stuff that's
Right.
currently in the
Right.
archive.
Well, and if there's things, you know, that you don't want to send through delivery, just let us
Mhm.
know. And hopefully we will have a cataloging work form that you can fill out rather than having to send stuff through delivery. And I don't want to say things get damaged in delivery because I don't know of any that have, but I know some items you don't want leaving your library, and that's totally fine. There's no judgment on that. Oh, okay. Barb posted it in the chat, so hopefully you can open that.
Yeah, let me know if you can't open it because I don't know what I'm doing sometimes.
Well, sometimes in Zoom you don't know what happens either. So, but yeah, if you can't open it, let us know and she can just email it to you. But
Yep,
yeah,
I got it.
oh, thanks. So we, so the, you know, the CMC can catalog special collections and we would consider those to be special collections. And then your pamphlets and stuff, probably your local history. So we can do those for free as well. So yeah. Okay, any other questions? Had some really good ones so far, so thank you. I was afraid we were gonna have a lot of dead air. I was really nervous about that. So remember, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can post a question in the chat. And just a reminder, the CMC can catalog local authors, local history, local genealogy, government documents, special collections, all for free. And we let you decide what a special collection is in your library. We are not the library police. And a lot of the special collections have been world language materials. I don't know of any languages that Mary and Eric and Barb have not been able to catalog, so feel free to send in your world language materials. As long as they are part of a special collection, then we can catalog those for free. And we have also been doing a lot of binge boxes that are special collections, kits, realia.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So we have some books in Japanese that are going to go into our archive and special collection. And so we've been trying to divide things out so we know like if it has a WorldCat record, if it doesn't. But with these Japanese items, can we just send them even if, you know, it may not be original cataloging?
Yeah, we can enhance records too. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't just have to be original. I mean, typically usually is, but yep, we can also do enhanced.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. And if anybody is going to be at ILA, please stop by our CMC booth. And then Eric and I will be doing a presentation on Tuesday, and then I'll be doing a panel presentation with Nancy George and Joy Anhalt on Wednesday. So if you're interested in those, please attend those as well. Okay, any other questions? Again, you can pop those in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask it verbally. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, then I'm going to end our session. So got 15 more seconds to pop a question in or unmute yourself. Nope. Okay. Oops. Somebody popped something in. Oh, just thank you. Okay. You are welcome.